Our next speaker is the wonderful Sandi Herrera, and it's fantastic to have her back again talking for this particular summit. Now, she is the founder of the Educator Dynamics, which is an incredible tool. She is founder of Got Core Values and also Genius Camps. And so it's great to have you here today, Sandi.
Thanks, Kathy. I am always happy to participate with you and collaborate with you. It's always a pleasure. So thank you so much. Uh,
Fantastic.
yeah, so many moving pieces and parts as I am growing the playground for the conscious educator movement, and educator dynamics and our Got Core Values curriculum are a big piece of that. And also our partnership with the Genius Group and Genius School Global are really helping us with elevating that consciousness for our educators, as well as creating that pathway for students, that personalized learning pathway. So it's quite exciting to be connected with all of the moving pieces and parts of the education revolution, and to be connected with you on this journey too.
Thank you. Thank you, Sandi. And there's so many different things that we could talk about today. You know, we could talk about Genius Camps. We could talk about the Got Core Values. We could talk about Educator Dynamics. Today, we're going to be talking about learning about superpowers and how those superpowers can be the key to your well-being.
Absolutely.
So, when we're talking about superpowers, what are we talking about when you're thinking of superpowers for people? What are those superpowers?
Yeah, so if you think about, and everyone phrases this differently. Some people reference it as gifts from God. Some people reference it as a superpower. Some people reference it just as a simple strength. Some people reference it as your inner genius. I always like to use it as superpower, because when you connect your innate gifts, the gifts that you were born with, the way that you operate naturally, those things that give you energy, those things that come easily to you. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like I'm a fantastic singer, which I'm not, so I won't hurt anyone's ears by trying to sing. It can be as simple as I'm great at scene strategy. Excuse me. It can be I'm great at connecting people, or I'm great at really seeing all the details to make an experience super special for people. I'm a great friend. I love listening. I'm a great at soccer. I'm great. There's so many different superpowers that if we start to look for those superpowers, not only in ourselves, sometimes it's easier to see them in others first. And really, I remember when my son was 5 years old and just starting out in school, and he came home and had a bad day, and he was super grumpy, and he was like, "Mom, so and so this and said that," and I don't remember exactly what it was, but I just remember he was just so defeated and so frustrated that this other child, would be behaving this way that was offensive to him, and very much in that it's their fault, right? And I remember saying, I said, "Son, I hear you, and I know that that must have been really hard for you." And I said, "Can you do something for me tomorrow?" And he goes, "What?" You know how kids do when they're pouting, right? "What?" And I said, "Tomorrow, I know this isn't going to be easy, but I want you to just find one thing, just one, that is that person's gift from God. Like God gave everyone a really special gift that only they can deliver the way that they deliver it on this earth. I want you to go and see if you can figure it out. And maybe you can't, and we'll talk about that." I said, "But I want you to try. Just see if you can figure out what that person's gift is." And that has led to really having my son, who is a supporter profile in the talent dynamics system, um, really just amplifying his superpower, which is really seeing the brilliance in other people and being able to connect and have that intuitive people skill that he naturally has. And I innately cultivated at a young age, way before I knew what talent dynamics was, just because I believe it's also connected to human kindness, which again, human kindness and forgiveness and a lot of those things, selfishly, it's for our benefit too. It's not just for the other person, because if I get to choose to generously assume that you're doing the best you can, and Brene Brown says this really well, um, then that is as much for my benefit as it is yours. Because if I think that you're doing something to be nasty or a jerk or something like that, it doesn't feel good in my body either to be thinking that. But if I generously assume, maybe you're having a bad day, someone cuts you off in traffic, and instead of thinking, that jerk, you can think, I hope that there's not an emergency in their life. I want to send them happy thoughts. Whatever, that feels better energetically in my system as well, which is how we really connect our innate superpowers to our well-being, is leading with human kindness, but also seeking out those superpowers in everyone around us really helps us get there.
And as you're talking there, I can see how strongly that core value, which is what we were talking about before, that core value is shining through, that core value of human kindness, that this is part of what it means to be human, is to think about the other people that are around us, and above all else, be kind. Is that right? It's interesting that you had that talk with your son as well, helping him to be able to see and look for the good that is in others, because I've had similar talks with my children over the years, and that understanding has certainly helped them reduce the amount of conflict that they have had with people in their worlds, and also to be able to understand the teachers that they're working with better, because our teachers have their own superpowers as well, don't they?
Yeah, we all do. And oftentimes, those of us in this kind of messy middle generation here, as I like to refer to it as, is like we we have worked so much in service of others that sometimes we forget to look within and honor and acknowledge our own inner gifts and superpowers. And I remember, and it was so powerful when I very first met Roger Hamilton, back in 2005, I believe it was. And I remember taking the talent dynamics, at that time, wealth dynamics assessment, and learning that I was a creator profile. And I remember arguing in my head about it and going, that's not what I wanted to be. That's not what I hoped I would be. I hoped I would be more the accumulator, trader, lord profile, because that's what I was, quote unquote, programmed to believe there was value in, within the traditional school system that I went to, and even within my familial system. There was great value placed in the structure and the system and the rigor and the details. And yet, as a creator, I was always living in this imaginary space. And I can hear my stepdad, who, unfortunate relationship with him, and abusive between he and my mom, saying, you're not going to make anything with those dreams, like come back down to reality. And just feeling that squash of my spirit, and feeling like I wasn't enough. Schools came so easily for my sister, as a Lord profile, and yet for me, I struggled to get B's and C's. Like I would work so hard, and yet then to learn in 2005, that it was permission to be who I naturally am, and to see that as a gift. And not everyone has those weird ideas that can turn into cool things. And so this evolution started happening in me, and it had been bubbling prior to that, hence why, I was drawn to Roger's work. And just this consciousness evolution that I've been on, to be able to now be in this place where I can now share with others and say, no, no, I see you as the unique, amazing human you are. There's nothing wrong or broken or not enough or not worthy about you. But the world and some of our systems, and structures have made it that they want us to all fit into these little boxes, when that's not where we're growing. It served us at one point in time in the Industrial Revolution, but it's not serving us today. So as we grow forward in really looking at how we evolve in order to meet the needs of the next generation, right? This generation of entrepreneurs, this generation of tech innovation and AI and all of these things, like, to really understand our role as humans, and how can we really deliver that value, right? And it is from that authentic taking our masks off and letting our weird out, right? letting our
Absolutely.
weird superpower out.
And as you're talking, what I'm thinking about is so many of the people that are the young people that are within our education system, and the broken family lives that many of them have are coming from, because we are talking about humanity here, and there's so many issues that people are facing in the world, and so we're talking about allowing them to be able to, allowing each and every one of us to start to feel that they have something within them, and to help find those little tiny sparks within them that says that they are lovable, that they are worthy, that they are enough, and then to enable that little spark to be able to grow and to be able to overcome the challenges that they're facing within their lives. And how do we create an environment within our classrooms, within our education system, where people can see? We talk about, being seen, where we are enabling all of these people to be seen, not as broken, bad, not enough individuals, but as people, and with the right to be able to grow and to experience their own full potential.
Absolutely. And that's really what looking at the root cause, right? Or the foundational elements in order to create this next level of a thriving economy and ecological system and climate change and I mean, we can connect it to all of the global sustainability goals when we look at who are we as humans and how are we behaving. And when we look through this lens of self-awareness, it's such a buzzword right now. And when we peel back the layers of how does self-awareness begin, it starts with recognizing when you're having a visceral reaction to something. Like we can take it back to basic physiology, right? And getting to this place where it's like, ooh, let me just notice that all of a sudden I started feeling this heat rise from behind, or wherever you're feeling, or this tension in my jaw. Let's just start there, right? And if we can start teaching that level of self-awareness, and then step two is getting curious. What is that? What do I want to label that as? What's happening? What can I do? And so you can there's a lot of layers of curiosity questions that we can teach that really help you uncover what may or may not be happening within your own body, that then leads you to purposeful action based upon your answers to those curious questions, right? And all of that can happen in a nanosecond. And it can also happen as an evolution over time to get curious with, for example, I've had knee struggles in my life. And so to get curious of, why do these keep coming up? If I look back over my life, when have my knee struggles come up? And when they come up, I've started noticing is when I'm in a big transition point in my life. I'm like at the cusp of a big transition point. And so I've looked at the science behind when things manifest physically and what that usually means emotionally and intellectually and what's going on in your brain, is that you can actually connect the knees to that moving forward, right? To that fear of moving forward, almost when you're struggling. And it's like, oh yeah, right before I got divorced for the second time to the same man, I tore my ACL throwing a baseball at my son's baseball practice. It's like, oh yeah, I had been stifling that relationship had kind of served its purpose in this life, and neither one of us were bad people, but it needed to evolve. And again, getting to those places is that self-awareness that's connected to our superpower, right? It's connected to what is my gift and how can I use my body, back to our well-being, to give me clues about what's working and what's not working. You know, what resonates, what doesn't resonate. Not good, bad, right, or wrong, because that's filled with lots of judgment, and judgment comes from lots of places. But when we look at looking at it as, is it working for me or is it not working for me? We can take some of the judgment out and just lead with that curiosity piece, to be kind to ourselves too.
Mm. And so much also of what I'm hearing through what you're talking about is that awareness of our emotions. And there's so many people talking about the importance of the emotional intelligence, being aware of our emotions, knowing the names of them, knowing what they look like in others and what they feel like in ourselves with no judgment, and then being able to know what to do with them appropriately. And so this becomes part of that superpower, isn't it? Knowing our strengths, knowing our emotions. And I think this is one of the things that is changing quite quickly now, is is people realizing the importance of that, and not trying to suppress them, because that's what's happened in the past, isn't it? We suppress those uncomfortable emotions with, you paint on a smile, you paint on what you think people want to see in the world, and yet it's part of what is causing layers of trauma, layers of generations of trauma, and the way that we treat people. And so this is part of this conscious educator movement, isn't it? Of helping people realize that we need to know about our emotions. We need to be able to walk with others as they go through those emotions, not trying to fix them, but
Mhm.
that this is each of our lives, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was having a conversation with a couple of amazing educators, and we were talking about diversity and inclusion and equity, and talking about creating brave spaces, right? Where we get to be the unique, amazing humans that we are. And within that brave space, that it is safe for all voices. But in order to create it to be safe for all voices, you have to make it a brave space first. That it's okay to be brave. It's okay to be courageous. It's okay to take that 20 seconds of courage space, in order to speak for what's coming up for you, that's your truth in this moment, right? Not that it may not evolve in the future, but that's your truth in this moment, and to be able to give words to it, to define it in a way that resonates with you, is really where we take our power back of our voice. And when we look at the unintentional diminishing, if we're going to look with generosity on previous generations, that they weren't intentionally having some of these repercussions. It truly was um, an unconscious evolution, right? And where we are now is not to look on the past with judgment, but to look at the past for learnings. And if we look through the learning lens and we look through that, with generosity of assumption, is they were doing the best they could, and they created a foundation for us to now have those lessons to pull forward and learn and grow from. And then next generation will pull from what we create, because we don't have all the answers either. And again, just that sense of non-judgment and generosity, and the which are two of the components in Brene Brown's work of the anatomy of trust, is that as we build and grow trust, not only with ourselves but in relationship with others, and it happens in those tiny micro moments, that we then begin to create these brave, safe spaces where we can innovate, we can have teamwork, we can have, all these cool things happen, and we can flex our superpower muscles. And getting to the core of where that begins is in that trust building and in that self-awareness.
Yeah.
And it's super powerful.
That is incredibly powerful. And can you imagine what it would be like if every single classroom around the world was a brave space?
Oh,
And
yes.
we
Yes.
wouldn't it be awesome, where you're creating that space, where for that year, for that period of time, you're on this journey together.
Yeah.
Mm.
And that's really what I am grateful to be the conduit, for this work, to inspire that in educators around the world, regardless of who you're teaching or what age group you're teaching. If you are an educator and you are inspiring, influencing others, how you create that container, and being intentional about it, is so valuable for really what you're setting up in order to inspire and influence, and the action that you want your students to take. And that really, I believe, is my gift and my superpower to this world, is to help people learn how to create those spaces and create those energetic containers in order for all the good work to thrive within. Right.
Mm. Yeah, and this is conversations that lots of people are being able to bring these different aspects to. So there's another speaker that's part of this summit, and Heather McTaggart, talking about free learning, talking about unschooling school and what that might look like. And if you layer on top of that the brave spaces that we're creating within this, enabling people to be able to learn and to use their superpowers to take them into the path that's there for them. And this is one of the things with the movement that's needing to happen right now, is because the outcomes that we needed from our education system have changed, and what we're needing now is people to be able to use their superpowers, to be able to problem solve, to be able to get on with other people, to be able to see other people, to negotiate this. I mean, there's so many different things, but they haven't been taught as part of our schooling system until we're starting to have these conversations now. So can I ask you about Genius School, because you're involved in Genius School, and how is that connected to superpowers?
Oh, so tightly connected. The work that Roger Hamilton and Angie Steed, and myself and Karen Bonanno have been able to do in really creating the foundation for the 0 to 18 movement of education, right, is the Genius School that's connected to the greater Genius Group, which is Roger's work in the 0 to 100 space of education, and that movement of entrepreneurs and learnings and all of those pieces. And there's so much that it's hard to put it into one little nugget. But when we think about Genius School and we think about the work that we've been able to do with our Genius Camps and our Teen Quest and our Young Entrepreneur Academy and our future, oh my gosh, I just lost the name of it. Oh, it'll come back to me. I was going down a different path and I saw it and it lost me. So, but what we're able to do with these camps is to be able to ignite that inner genius, ignite that inner superpower in all children. And so our camps are an intro way to um, share with the students as well as with the families what that journey is like. And with the camps being themed, show up, step up, and give back, it really helps the kiddos kind of break down that this is who they naturally show up as, having them take the Talent Dynamics for Young People assessment, and knowing what their superpower is within that framework, and then talking about, well, what does that mean? What does that look like when you connect with friends, and how do you use that in your current school system? How do you use that with your siblings? How do you use that when your parents are asking you to do chores? And so we start really talking about who they show up as. And then we talk about step up. And that step up is, how do you fuel your inner genius? How do you fuel your superpower? And we talk about nutrition, and we talk about mindfulness, and we talk about movement, whether that's exercise or walking or dancing or whatever it is. And we have them develop I am statements. We have them develop I wake up every day statements. Again, really that movement towards anti-bullying, anti-suicide, suicide prevention, and really helping them own the unique, amazing human that they are, connecting with how do they fuel that through sleep and mindfulness. Like, all of those layers are how we take care of our well-being as a human. And that's a really important component of the step up piece, so that they can then give back. Right. And so we teach them about the global sustainability goals, and we teach them to think globally, but act locally. And how can they really create a community-based project that they're excited about with their new teammates. And we teach them how to then collaborate in teams and leverage each other's inner superpower, and really celebrate in their differences. So it's this microcosm that allows them to then go on to the Teen Quest program or the Young Entrepreneur Academy, and then on to whatever they're meant to contribute in this life based on their superpower. We kind of help them see that pathway forward.
And help them to be able to see and understand where other people are coming from. I love the way that you're talking about connecting with other people that have similar interests, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
hearing that sort of theme coming from many people as well. And those people don't have to be the same age as you.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things that's coming up with the conversations that I'm having is, why are we educating people and insisting that they're going through school in these same age bands when, that's not how our life works. We don't have to be the same age when we're working with other people, and diversity is strength almost every time. So,
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. And that diversity of thought as well. And the other piece of, it's not about, don't look at my paper. It's about, how can we share, and what's coming up for me, and maybe there is a new way within the way that you're doing math or writing a paper or whatever it is.
Absolutely. So when we're talking about the conscious educator movement, because you've talked about that a few times, what is it?
Yeah, so my work is all about creating this playground for the conscious educator movement, because it's happening, and it's been bubbling for a while, where there are so many of us that are evolving our consciousness, and learning to really be intentional about our life, about our choices, about our actions, about our behaviors, um, and being able to understand that we're not weird. Maybe we are, but that's a good thing. And we're not alone. And there's so much in the space of consciousness that can be connected to spirituality. It can be connected to religion. It can be connected to, and regardless, I want to create this brave, safe space that is truly about all of us just being the unique, amazing humans that we are, regardless of our religious affiliations or backgrounds, or whatever it is, that we just get to come together with this common bond of evolution and education. And that the more that we evolve, and the more that we are intentional about our own inner superpower and our own evolution, to uncover our gifts and share them with the world, that we're not alone in doing so. And that if your gift is making silly hats, to make Zoom more exciting, and you feel weird about that, because you're like, who wants to wear a silly hat on Zoom? We're your tribe to go, no, come make your silly hats, I'll wear it, like, let's go. And to be each other's cheerleaders, and to really be that supportive collective community, whereby we create this playground where we all get to show up and play from our position of strength, whatever that looks like, whatever your natural brain wired strength is, whatever your superpowers are. You get to bring them to this playground. Just like a traditional playground, you have some environments, some pieces of the playground where you're sitting quietly with a friend, having a very amazing conversation, or maybe you're being supported. Another time, maybe you're just going round and round on the merry-go-round going, I'm just going to have fun, but I have no idea where I'm going. And then other times, maybe you're on the monkey bars and you're like, I don't know how I'm going to get to the next rung, but I can do this. And so it's really understanding that this playground is about us all reconnecting with that inner playfulness, that inner child of the unique, amazing human that we are, and taking our masks off, metaphorically and otherwise, to really show up and play all in with the gifts that we were given, and creating that movement for all of us to show up that way, and be celebrated, and then create our global change making pathways from there, to be able to make the impact and the income that we've always desired, in order to then have that ripple effect of impact and income. And because that's really the revolution, as we're able to grow our consciousness, is that ripple effect for others.
Mm-hmm. It's really interesting that you're bringing in that word intentionality in here as well, because in the work that I'm doing with teachers in New Zealand, many of them talk about the opportunity to be intentional, to have the tools to think about the impact of what they're doing, and to be able to choose to do this or to do that, and to know about that impact. So, and I also love the creativity that is unleashed when we play, when we're allowed to have that freedom. And I think so much of that freedom to explore and play has been driven out over in the system over the years. And there's Gwen Somerset talked about play being a child's work. And certainly in the preschool setting in many countries, and there is that element of children being allowed to play, but then as soon as they come into school, it's time now to learn. And I've had people say to me, say that to me, that we've started school now, we're ready for learning. Well, I'm sorry, but these children have been learning from the minute they were born. And so being able to set up a classroom, or that classroom environment, that group, whether it's in the classroom or whether you're talking about Zoom communities across the world, or whether you're talking about a physical space where people can go and meet with other people and again explore there. That's an incredibly powerful model in lots of different ways.
Absolutely. There's so much science behind the power of play. And we tend to lose that, like you said, as we grow. And especially in those middle school, as we call them here in the US, years, from that 10 to 13, it's like you're too cool to play now, and you gotta, roll with the crowd and whatever it is. And then especially when we get into high school and then into adulthood, is I've asked this question in several of my workshops: is when was the last time you had playtime? What was that like for you? What would you choose if you had playtime? If you had a whole day to play and that was your job, what would you do? What would you choose? And it's interesting to hear the answers. And so I'd love to ask you, if you have something that came to mind, Cathy, if you had a whole day to play, what would you choose to do?
Go to the beach. Go
Love
to
it.
the
And
beach.
what would you do at the beach?
Go and walk at the beach and paddle in the water and sit and enjoy the sunshine, and maybe even take a book and go and do that. Chat with some people, pick up some shells, because I love picking up shells, and just be at the beach.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so important to just feel that essence energy difference. It's super powerful how you said just be, because so much of our world is do, 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 do. And that is so exhausting if we don't balance it with just be. Frolic, right? I think of a time when I went with a group of friends to go to Yosemite National Park, and we hiked Half Dome. And it was the half of the group did it in half of the time that I did it, but I still did it, and I was super proud of myself. And the next day we're more on the flat grounds, and there was this meadow, and I looked out the car door and I said, "We have to go frolic." And they looked at me like I had three heads. And I was like, "No, not kidding. We have to go frolic. Like y'all drug me to the top of that mountain, and I did it in 14 hours, but I did it. And you're gonna come frolic with me." And I let out my inner child, and I didn't like, what is frolicking? And so I was like trying to figure out how to like in my adult grown body, like how do I frolic? And so I almost felt sillier doing it, and which made it funnier, which I just kept leaning into it, because we get to, right? We get to play, because why not? If it makes you smile, absolutely, you get to.
Yeah,
And
and that's part of creating our well-being, isn't it? Is being able to give ourselves that time to just be, and to enjoy the things that we can enjoy in our lives, which is really, really cool. So how are you creating the playground for the conscious educator movement? Because you're
so
talking about creating an actual space as well, aren't you?
I am, and it is not only a virtual space, but it will also be a physical space. And my timeline in my brain is 5 minutes, because I can see it so clearly. But those of you that are a lot better at timing and how long things actually take will probably be able to tell me how long this is going to take to get there. But I'm accelerating that timeline by connecting with amazing humans that are able to make that happen. Is in this virtual space, it is connecting through our Conscious Educator Facebook group and unifying us all in that space to be able to share and collaborate freely, and to be able to share opportunities of what's happening globally around the world, with the education revolution, and how we're transforming our classrooms into brave spaces, and how some of that's already happening, and to be able to glean information from one another. And so that's one of the platforms. The other platform is within the circles that I have. I have ed leader circles and school culture circles. So the ed leader is more of an individual pathway, and the school culture is for your school culture environment. And being able to evolve through the levels of consciousness in both pathways, and then being connected to what the Genius Group is doing and the online platforms to be able to share your wisdom with the learners of the world. And then into this ranch learning hub that will be a physical manifestation of the playground, that will be connected to the five elements, that will be connected to how we all show up And we get to create our own unique pathway within this physical playground in order to have immersion experiences, to learn and grow and evolve as the educators of the world, regardless of what age group you are teaching, and what your curriculum is. And so really looking to create this central hub of the conscious educator movement as a playground. And we will truly have swings and merry-go-rounds and monkey bars and kayaks and horseback riding and ATVing and all of the ways that you can play, and bringing in the world's thought leaders, in their specific field, to be able to share through adventure and play. And again, you'll get to pick which journey are you on in this time that you're visiting the playground. And we'll have different opportunities that will be able to flow throughout the year for you to come and be a part of this amazing community.
That sounds amazing, especially when you add into that the layer that Wen Lee is another one of the speakers, and she's talking about the importance of outdoor education as part of helping people find out, who they are and developing that resilience and so on. So it's awesome that you're bringing in that outdoor experience along with the learning there. So last question for you is, how does this stuff ignite the inner genius or the superpower in students, but also in teachers?
Mm. It truly kind of goes back to what we were talking about originally. And when we think about what's possible, and when we look at what resonates, and when we look at what works and what feels good, and what fills us up with joy and well-being, and that life energy where you can't wait to get out of bed and say, I get to do this. That all comes from that inner knowing of what your superpower is. And sometimes, like mine, it took me a bit to figure it out. I'm now teetered into those late 40s, and I'm just now kind of figuring all of these pieces and parts out and putting them together. And Roger Hamilton is one of the people that shares this. When you think of your future vision of what you dream of your life to be like the top of a puzzle box, and you open it up, and what it is it's the world as the playground to go find those puzzle pieces to match the vision that you have. And the first puzzle piece is in finding out what your unique superpower is and what your gifts are to share with the world, and then go pick up the other pieces to help amplify those gifts and to amplify that inner genius, that inner superpower that you are meant to deliver to this world.
Fantastic. And as you do that, I know what it's like when you're working as part of an amazing jigsaw puzzle of people. And it's so much more fun. Not only do you achieve so much more than you ever thought possible, but you have an incredible sense of fun while doing it. It's like it becomes easy, isn't it? And so it's part of that journey, isn't it? Of being able to release people's magic, people's inner gifts into the world.
And how beautiful and empowering is it to think of life's journey as an adventure on a playground?
Certainly a lot freer than it is for so many people at the moment, especially when they're feeling so heavy and so on. So yeah, let's play, everybody.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for sharing this today, Sandi, your ideas around this conscious educator movement and how important it is for people to be able to identify their superpowers, and then how we can use that to help us stay well, stay healthy. Not only that, but to be able to achieve more than we could ever dream of. So thank you so much for sharing your passion for that.
Thank you so much, Cathy.
Okay, so what I'd love is if people can jump over into the Facebook group and to share what's the biggest thing that they've taken away from Sandi's talk today. Is that what you'd like to hear from this, Sandi?
I would love that. I would love that.
So great.
That'd be wonderful.
Thank
See
you.
y'all there.
Cool. Okay. Thanks, Sandi.